Well, that's it. I think they've now hit rock bottom, folks. Who in the flying hell do they think they are kidding if they think digital ID is going to be popular across Great Britain, so that the state can track and monitor and watch every single move you make? Whether you're going out, whether you're coming, going, buying, selling, you name it, they'll be watching. More about that in the second half of the video, and with a sponsor, which is very timely for this video. More about them a little bit later. But first of all, let's take a look at this, shall we? So they're trying to flog you this idea. I hate the word flog, which is why I use it here. They're trying to flog you the idea. For my international viewers, that just means sell you something that you don't really want. At least that's how I've always interpreted it. So they're trying to sell you something that you don't already want. An idea that digital ID is going to be a great thing. They're trying to say, and I quote, "We will roll out digital ID for free across the UK," like it's something that people actually want. They say this is another measure to make our borders more secure. You mean apart from security at the airport? You mean apart from the passports that we currently need? You mean apart from the security checks and the background checks and the visas and everything else that you already need to come in and out of the country legally? That is, of course, unless you rock up on a dinghy and then they don't ask for a thing. They just take you to the nearest hotel. With my usual caveat that some people are genuinely fleeing war-torn countries. I don't think there are many of those, but that's by the by. And they say they're also going to use it to combat illegal working. Oh, and by the way, if it wasn't entirely obvious by now, we're here on Black Belt Secrets, so please do subscribe, and I'd be very grateful. So let's get into this, shall we? I don't even know where to start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say I think they've achieved the impossible here. Labour has finally achieved what I think no one's ever done. They've united the country and all political parties against themselves, even members of their own party, which I think is quite an achievement, which I'm going to demonstrate to you in just a moment. They say digital ID will make Britain safer, fairer, more secure. Well, I think it's going to increase risk of digital identity theft and data breaches. Don't forget, it was not all that long ago that it hit the headlines that there were countless thousands of Afghans who had their data breached, who we were supposed to be protecting. So this is not exactly reassuring anybody that this is going to be safer. But fairer? How is it fair to say, and I'll play you the video in a moment where he says that no one will be able to work unless you have a digital ID. And more secure? How is it going to make anything more secure? Nothing's going to be more secure just because we're forced to have an ID. You're already forced to have a driving license if you drive. That's fair enough. You're already forced to have a passport if you want to fly out of the country. That's fair enough. You have all sorts of other ID cards for all sorts of other things. You need a national insurance number if you want to work and pay national insurance by way of PAYE, which is fair enough. We don't need a digital ID card for any of this, but let me show you just how Keir Starmer put this across. This is not exactly inspiring confidence, but take a listen to this.
Today, I am announcing this government will make a new free-of-charge digital ID mandatory for the right to work by the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
If this is not an authoritarian dictatorship, I will tell you what you can and can't do regime, then I don't know what is. Let me just play that again. I mean, he had to spell it out twice because I don't think even he believed it when he said it. But I'm going to have to play it again because it really is difficult to believe. Listen to this.
At the end of this Parliament. Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to speak for the vast majority of the country here. Who the hell does he think he is to say you cannot work unless you sign up to one of these digital ID gimmicks? This is not just me saying this. This is the vast majority of people across the country. And I'm going to show you a couple of polls here. Firstly, I'm going to go to my X profile and show you a poll where I did something here. So I did two things here. I put a poll on X and said, let's get this straight. Starmer implements mandatory digital ID. Do you comply? I've had just over 3,000 votes so far. 97.7% say no, they will not comply. Now, I've seen a video that says now no one's going to get fined or anything if you don't get one. There's no punishment or anything like that. Well, yet at least. They just say, but you just won't be able to work unless you have a digital ID. Now, I also did a poll on my YouTube channel right here. I will link the post below. Well, not here, my Black Belt Barrister YouTube channel. And I did 2 polls, actually, just so that I can see what the real response is. The first one I said, what do you think of a UK digital ID? Yes, good idea. And 4%, to be fair to them, think it's a good idea. But 96% out of 49,000 people, which I think is reasonably reflective, even if there's some international viewers here who thinks that the UK ID is a pile of, I nearly swear, I don't swear on my YouTube videos, but I nearly did. They don't think it's a good idea. 96% said they don't think it's a good idea. And so likewise, I did a second poll and said the same as I did on X. Let's get this straight. Starmer implements mandatory digital ID. Do you comply? 18,000 people voted and 97% coincidentally said no, they won't comply. But what does that mean? I mean, are they going to not be able to work now? If they've already got a job, are they going to tell current employers that they need to set this up? Otherwise, they have to cease all employment. I'll come back to that in the second half of the video. But as it happens, if you respect your personal privacy, identity, and data, roll the sponsor. This one is good for you. And as you've probably gathered from recent news stories, people are increasingly worried about their personal data and information that they've left on websites all over the place in case it comes back to bite them and gets them into trouble, particularly with the strengthening of laws in the UK and what we see as the curtailment of free speech. So if you'd like to get rid of this information and make yourself disappear and delete yourself from the internet, after all, if they can't find you, they can't harm you, then I would recommend a service to you called Incogni, who partners my channel here to provide you this service. You get access to a dashboard and they contact all of these companies, including companies that you specifically target and request remove your data, and they will use UK and US law to require that they remove your data from their systems, helping you to delete and erase yourself from the internet. And if you sign up with my link and code below, Black Belt Secrets, you will get 60% off the annual plan and a 30-day money-back guarantee if you change your mind. But once you sign up, you'll get access to a dashboard and you'll see the companies removing your information from the internet, including those that you specifically target. So if you want to start erasing yourself from the internet, check out Incogni today. For now, let me show you just how they've been incredibly successful in uniting people against themselves. This is quite the feat, actually. We have Adnan Hussein. So we've got a range of people here. I'll do my best to point out whether they are Labour, Lib Dems, Conservatives, or whomever. It's the Conservatives, I think, are going to come out in the worst of all this because they're not quite so clear as the rest, but I'll come back to them in a minute. Adnan Hussein, he's an independent. He says, Starmer's government seems to have achieved the impossible, united a fragmented country against plans to roll out digital ID. Everyone's on one page against the absurd idea, a rare sight. Well, I applaud you, Adnan Hussein, and I agree with you. And quite right, I think we are going to unite a lot of people in this. Nigel Farage, I firmly oppose Keir Starmer's digital ID cards. It will make no difference to illegal migration. I agree with you, Nigel. But it will be used to control and penalise the rest of us. I agree with you, Nigel. I'll come back to that in the second half of the video. The state should never have this much power. I agree with you, Nigel. Moving on, Ben Habib, as you know from Advance UK. He says Keir Starmer has been busy trying to cancel yet more of our freedoms. Introducing digital ID has nothing to do with controlling illegal migrants. The flow of them could be stopped overnight if he wished it. Digital ID is aimed at us, law-abiding folk in the UK. It's absurd to suggest, to remedy his own failings at our border, that we should give up more of our freedom. The state already encroaches far too much on our private lives. Freedom of speech is going, use of cash is going, now freedom of action and movement will be gone with digital ID. For the record, Advanced UK government will revoke digital IDs along with just about everything else Starmer's done. On a final note, if you want to stop illegal migration, stop the dinghies and refuse them entry, send them back to Macron, which is something that I've said before. So Ben Habib, firmly against. Moving on, Rupert Lowe, as you may have guessed, digital ID as an MP, I won't do it, he says. I will not comply. I hope you stand with me. Well, I stand with you, Rupert. I think I agree that a lot of people just won't do it. And this petition has now over 1 million signatures I've seen it fly up from when I first put it out yesterday. I think it was just over 100,000 then, now well over 1 million signatures. This could break records. We'll come back to that in another video, perhaps. Papers, please, James McMurdoch says. He says, sorry, I mean digital ID, Labour's latest distraction tactic of digital ID, terrifying and a big no from me. Mass surveillance, function creep. We move on to Lord Frost. David Frost, Conservative in the House of Lords, says, just say no. Simple as that. He's talking to Kemi Badenoch, who says this announcement is a desperate gimmick that will do nothing to stop the boats. There are arguments for and against digital ID. I'm sorry, with great respect, Kemi Badenoch, just pick a side, because you're not going to sort of appease the enough people to support the party here. I think you'll find the vast majority, and I'm talking 97% plus, as the statistics show, are going to be against this, and you need to pick a side. Moving on, Liberal Democrats cannot support a mandatory digital ID. People shouldn't be criminalized just because they don't want to hand over their private data. The caption, Liberal Democrats cannot support a mandatory digital ID where people are forced to turn over their private data just to go about their daily lives. People shouldn't be turned into criminals just because they can't have a digital ID. This will be especially worrying to millions of older people, people living in poverty, disabled people, who are more likely to be digitally excluded. Like, think homeless people, for example. What if they don't have a mobile phone? Someone emailed me in. Thank you for the email. They said, what if I don't have a smartphone? They've no intention of having a smartphone. Never have, never will. And what if this only works on a smartphone? They are royally screwed, is the phrase I used the other day, which somebody seemed to enjoy, because it quite captions just how bad this is. Again, from the Liberal Democrats, I don't think people in this country should be criminalised if they don't wish to hand over their personal data, etc. Again, Victoria Collins of Liberal Democrats shared the same thing. Tim Farron, former leader of the Liberal Democrats, says, I'm a Liberal and I'm against this sort of thing, quoting Clarence Harry Wilcock of 1950. Also me, he says, of 2025. Moving on, from the Green Party this time, after being used in World War II, compulsory ID cards were abolished in 1952 because of the widespread sentiment that they are fundamentally at odds with British values and civil liberties. That was true then, and it's true now. Moving on, the SNP. We're against Starmer's Brit card. And again, from Stephen Flynn, share if you agree. And again, from Michelle O'Neill, the British Prime Minister's proposal for mandatory ID is ludicrous and ill thought out. This proposal is an attack on the Good Friday Agreement and on the rights of Irish citizens in the north of Ireland. Even Jeremy Corbyn, added to the long list of people I've just quoted from, firmly opposed the government's plans for compulsory digital ID cards. This is an affront to our civil liberties and will make the lives of minorities even more difficult and dangerous. It's excessive state interference and must be resisted, Jeremy Corbyn says. Zara Sultana, despite their falling out, they're on the same page for this at least, says Labour's plan for compulsory digital ID risks creating a more authoritarian state. Under constant surveillance, we would have to pass through digital checkpoints just to live our daily lives, with even more barriers for minorities, migrants, and the digitally excluded. Tony Blair tried this 20 years ago. We stopped it then, and we must stop it again. And so I say, this is uniting everybody. Nadia Whittome MP, if we're going to reheat Blair-era policies, that's when they tried this back in 2009 and it was scrapped by Conservatives, can we please focus on lifting children out of poverty instead of this divisive authoritarian nonsense? So again, it's like uniting people, because there might be some ideas they want to get together on from Blair era, but not this one. Clive Lewis. This is what happens when you outsource your policy program to the Tony Blair Institute, corporates and tech billionaires, because they did that little poll of a couple of thousand people and the Blair Institute said, everybody supports digital ID. But I don't think they do. I think, without being uncharitable, I've not seen it, so it's not a statement of fact for any defamation lawyers looking at it, but my personal opinion is that it's probably somewhat swayed and probably not representative, regardless of what the statistics in that poll say, because the vast majority of the public, as it is demonstrated here by a vast number of MPs and parties by the same token, and my own polls of countless tens of thousands of people, think that this is the dumbest idea ever. So coming back to it, what on earth is this actually going to do? Let's play this out, shall we? If you cannot work without a digital ID, what if we suddenly have 3-4 million people that simply flat out refuse? And that's not a large percentage, by the way. We've got 69 million people. Obviously, we're only talking about adults here, but if a few million people adults refuse to take digital ID, what are they going to do? Lose their job immediately? Stop working immediately? What do you think that will do to the economy? What do you think that will do to those individuals? They'll stop, they won't be able to earn money, they won't be able to pay their mortgage, they won't be able to pay their rent, they'll get kicked out, they'll get repossessed, they'll be homeless on the streets. This could quite literally turn the whole country into a bit of a zombie apocalypse of unemployed people unable to work and earn money. Because as Keir Starmer says, and like I said, I had to play it twice so that there was absolutely no ambiguity. He said it nice and clearly. He had to repeat it for himself.
Let me spell that out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
Just wow. I mean, I'm genuinely speechless, not least of which because of how stupid this comment is, but about how many of the parties and politicians are coming together to say, no, this is a dumb idea, and about the fallout. I mean, it was only just last month we had this story here. Ministry of Defense staff were warned before the Afghan data leak not to share information containing hidden tabs, according to the documents released by the UK data regulator, because it emerged that the details of almost 19,000 people fleeing the Taliban who had applied to move to the UK were leaked when an official email spreadsheet containing a hidden tab with the information. So if they cannot even keep safe the details of 19,000 people that were promised safety fleeing the Taliban because they'd somehow worked with British forces, if we cannot keep them safe, what chance do they have of keeping the millions and millions of adults, millions, not just thousands, millions of adults across the country? There are some 50-odd million adults living in the UK. Let's just say that 10% of those choose not to, and that is not a huge percentage. Then we are obviously looking at, in the region, at the very least, of 5 million people who cannot work, according to Keir Starmer, and therefore probably cannot do anything else. I mean, if they need a digital ID, let's say to go shopping, to do banking, to work, as Keir Starmer suggests, to travel, public transport, or join a gym. Now, if they can't do any of those things, what do they expect those 5 million, if it is 10% that choose not to do it? I suspect more probably would choose not to do it. What do they expect them to do? But let's say that they do it. Let's say that we get tens of millions of people that do sign up for this digital ID. Then they are going to track your every move, where you bank, with whom you bank, what's in your bank, when you buy, when you spend, when you save, when you transfer. If it's on your phone, on an app, if it is on a digital ID app on your phone, they'll be tracking everywhere you go, every move you make, every time you visit somewhere, everything you buy, everything you buy from the shop. They'll be tracking every single thing you buy from that shop. The range of data that they'll be collecting on you is boundless. And that, I think, is the end goal, because data is valuable. If they capture data, they can sell it. They will sell it to the highest bidder. You will hear it here first. Probably someone else might have said it, but you will hear it here from me right now, that if this does go forward, there'll be plans and leaks and talks and rumors of selling your data wholesale. There's already been these rumors of selling NHS data and all sorts of other data all over the place. So mark my words, if this is going ahead in any form, that's the reason for it. They want to make money by selling your data, because data points are valuable. That is why they get leaked. That is why they get stolen. That is why they impersonate you. And that is why the data theft is so prevalent. And that is why data protection is so important. That is why I partner with companies like Incogni that I did for this channel, and I do for Nord on my other channels. So this is why I partner with those companies. It's why I take data protection so seriously. It's why I get slightly wound up about it when things like this propose a real tangible risk to countless millions and millions of people across the country. And finally, it is not going to stop illegal migration. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for enjoying the rant, and I'll see you next time.